There's a muscle in your arm that some people are born without, and they never notice their whole lives. You can find out which kind of person you are in about 5 seconds. Clench your fist. Bend your wrist toward you. Press your thumb against your pinky. Now look at the middle of your wrist. Either a thin cord just popped up out of the skin, or it didn't. And which one you got says something kind of wild about where your species is headed. Roughly 1 in 10 people never get that cord at all. Some populations run even higher once you check both arms. No cord, smooth wrist, and nothing wrong with them at all. That cord has a name. It's the tendon of a muscle called the palmaris-longus. That's the thin one you may have just watched pop up on your own arm. A long, skinny strap of muscle that starts near your elbow and runs all the way down to the base of your palm. And you don't need it. You may be looking at a piece of your own body that your species is slowly, quietly getting rid of. Some of you already don't have it, and you'd never know. So let's talk about what this thing is actually doing in there. A tendon is just the tough little cable at the end of a muscle, the part that anchors it to a bone so it can pull. The palmaris-longus is the muscle, and that cord you can see is its tendon, poking up under the skin because there's so little between it and the surface. When you cupped your hand and flexed, you tightened it. That's why it appeared. Here's the thing though. When doctors test what it's actually for, real grip, the strength you'd use to open a jar or hang off a bar, the palmaris-longus barely shows up. The big muscles in your forearm do that work. This one comes along for the ride, which is why it gets a label that sounds almost rude, vestigial. A vestigial part is a leftover, something that used to earn its keep in an ancestor and mostly stopped. It's not broken. It's not a mistake. It's just a tool for a job your body doesn't really do anymore. And once you know the palmaris-longus is basically spare, something else starts to make sense. Something surgeons have known for a long time. Because here's where it gets a little unsettling. Your body already treats this muscle as spare parts. If someone tears a tendon somewhere that actually matters, a thumb, a hand, a shoulder, a surgeon needs a replacement cable to rebuild it with. Tendons don't graft well from just anywhere. Whatever they use has to be long, thin, strong, and ideally, not doing much else. And one of the first places they look is your wrist. They'll open you up, find that same cord you just found on your own arm, and take the whole thing. Cut it free at both ends, lift it out, and stitch it in wherever it's actually needed. Nobody has to explain to your body what happened. Nothing gets rerouted, retrained, or relearned. The tendon simply gets unplugged from one job and plugged into another. And your hand works exactly the same afterward. Same grip, same strength. You just quietly become a person who doesn't have it anymore. Think about that for a second. There is a muscle in your arm so optional that medicine keeps it on the shelf as a graft. A body part with an in case of emergency, remove and reuse sign hanging on it. And the sign's been there long enough that most surgeons barely think twice before reaching for it. But that's not even the strangest part, because the palmaris-longus isn't the same in everyone. Some people have it in both arms, some in just one. And plenty of people don't have it anywhere at all, and go their entire lives never once noticing. Go back and check your other wrist right now. Same test. Fist, bend, thumb to pinky. There's a real chance the cord shows up on one arm and just isn't there on the other. One body, 2 arms. And your species couldn't quite decide. Most people never check both sides, so they never find out. You could be carrying a small, lopsided piece of evolutionary history around for decades. One wrist still holding on to the old equipment, the other already living in the future. The only time it usually comes up is in a doctor's office, right before a graft, when someone glances at both your arms to see which one still has spare parts to offer. That's the part that gets me. This isn't a clean, everybody has it or nobody has it. You're watching a coin that's still in the air, and the rate you're missing it isn't the same everywhere. It shifts from population to population, and it climbs when you actually check both arms instead of one. So if you've got a bare wrist right now, you're not missing anything. You might just be a little further down the road the rest of us are on. Which raises the obvious question. If this muscle does almost nothing, and half the time it's optional, and surgeons harvest it like a spare cable, why do we have it at all? For that, you have to leave the doctor's office and go back a very, very long way. Picture a hand that isn't quite yours. It belongs to a distant ancestor, something that spent its life in the trees. Wrap that hand around a branch, high up, with the whole weight of a body hanging underneath it. For an animal that lives like that, grip isn't a convenience. It's the difference between the branch and the ground. And the leading explanation is that a long muscle like the palmaris-longus helped with exactly that. A little extra pull for a hand built to hold on, to climb, to hang. That hand needed every scrap of grip it could get. Then, slowly, over a stretch of time that's hard to even picture, the life changed. We came down out of the trees. We stopped hanging by our hands for a living. We built other things to do the holding, tools, and then handles, and eventually a steering wheel and a phone. And a muscle that once helped you not fall out of a tree found itself with nothing much to do. It didn't vanish. Evolution rarely bothers deleting something the moment it stops mattering. It just lingered, fading in some of us, gone in others, hanging on in most. So the cord on your wrist isn't a flaw, and it isn't spare in a boring way. It's a receipt. Proof that the animal you're built from used to live a completely different life. One your own arm still remembers, even though you never will. Which is the thing to sit with before you unclench your fist. You are not a finished design. You're a work in progress, walking around, carrying old equipment from a body that climbed for a living, some of it already being packed away while you're not looking. That little cord in your wrist, or the smooth spot where it used to be, that's evolution, caught mid-sentence, on you, right now. And this is just one muscle, one tendon, one leftover. Your body is full of them. Strange old switches and spare parts and reflexes that only make sense once you know the animal you used to be. So go find someone right now and make them clench their fist, then come back, because there's something even weirder your body is doing, and it's happening behind your own eyes.